Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't have a poll question. I'm open. Yeah, I was thinking Deshaun Watson, but we've done that recently.
Yeah, and you have to be careful with phrasing.
Yeah. So when in doubt, we'll just
maybe like who would you like to see as the backup in Dallas? Because we get Flacco going to the Eagles yesterday.
Okay, so the choices are Alex Smith, Gail Gilbert, one other, and then you tell us. All right, I like it. Let's see. I need a third though. God, not Ben DiNucci.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. We could put it there just because it's funny. It's possible.
Yeah, him or Cooper Rush, or you could put both of them for like one. Like if you could,
Okay.
Like Cooper Rush / DiNucci.
That's good. Well, I'm not going to get this typed in time. Be little by little during the first segment. Here we go. You made it to midweek. That's always a good sign. Wednesday, March 24th, 2021. Men's tournament, women's tournament, Sweet 16 selected for both now. I'll let the doors finish. Think it's rude to speak over Mr. Mojo Rison, the Lizard King, Jim Morrison, front man of the Doors, and one of the most famous members of the 27 Club. Welcome in. It is the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Shannon will not become a member of the 27 Club because she survived age 27.
Did it. Barely. Had to go through that year that was 2020 to do it.
Oh, my God. You were 27 in 2020.
Yeah.
Wow. So weird.
I have to ask you, for those watching us on our live video feed here, you can see that Mr. Chris Duel has a Why Kawhi sign today.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that the Clippers are in town to take on the Spurs, but so is it that, or is it the fact that Kawhi, who's so unhappy in LA right now that he bought a $17 million home there?
It's all of the above. It's just why. I mean, everything about Kawhi to me is why Kawhi. And on a certain level, though, and you make a great point about just what a contradiction Kawhi Leonard is. I think it was last week we talked about the reports that he is unhappy with the Clippers and maybe thinking to go elsewhere. And then boom, $17 million house in LA. However, I mean,
he thinks he's going to the Lakers.
Maybe he did grow up in the LA area, so maybe that's it. Maybe that's a long-term investment. Your buddy, and by the way, he was great on the show yesterday, Mitch Morse, Austin's own Mitch Morse, who's now the starting center of the Buffalo Bills. he and his wife have a home in Kansas City. He was a longtime Kansas City Chief, but
Both went to school in the area.
yeah, so they're going to stay. So, maybe
I mean,
maybe
would you
this
rather
is
live in Kansas City or Buffalo, New York?
I think other than anybody who grew up in Buffalo and has family there, that's an easy answer. So, but God, he's so yeah, it's and two straight nights of the Clippers. It's a back-to-back at home for the Spurs. The Spurs not good at home yet this year, and I say yet because I hold out hope. They are 10-11 at home. They're 12-7 on the road. Yesterday, in fact, I don't have it with me. I'll do it again and write the numbers down. I was just sitting by the pool yesterday going, all right, the Spurs are 12-7. If they were 12-7, and again, I know 21 games doesn't equal 12-7, but if they played at the same winning percentage at home that they are playing on the road, where would they be? They're in the 7 slot right now. They would be in the 5 slot, a half a game behind the Clippers, who are in the 4 slot.
A little more comfortable there.
Yeah. So I really feel they need to split, somehow get one of these games against the Clippers, which is doable. They beat the Clippers earlier in the year at Staples Center. This is a good Spurs team. It's not like, we're an awful, bottom feeder. There's a lot of talent on this Spurs team. I just don't understand why you can't win at home, but you can on the road. So we'll see how that works out.
Need more fans in AT&T.
True.
Get things going. Breathe some life into them.
Yeah, and I think there's 3,200 fans currently that are allowed in.
Which is a lot of people, but that arena is quite large.
Yeah.
It's very large. I've sat up at the tippy top for a concert, and it's
what sucks about the AT&T Center at the tippy top, and I've been up in the nosebleeds. The seats in the nosebleeds are so they're smaller. They're even closer together, side to side, and they're closer together front and back. I mean, you stand up and you're on top of the person in front of you, and
like you're sitting on a tilted angle.
Yes, and I'll bet you,
you're like, I'll bet you forward and just fall to your death.
I'll bet you it is slightly tilted. I had the same feeling too. When I'm up there and I stand, it's like, well, I better not lose my balance or I'm done. So if you're going to build an arena, and I love the Spurs, obviously. And the Spurs didn't build the arena, and I love the AT&T Center, and I'm a homer for all things San Antonio, Austin, and Texas. But if you're going to build an arena, don't penalize the people who sit in the upper. You sit down below. Ooh, these are nice, plush, comfortable. Come on, spend a little extra money. It can be done. I do believe this is America. You can engineer your arenas a little bit better.
Yeah. I think that's the whole idea behind the new Moody Center for Texas is there's not a bad seat in the house.
Cool.
It's a little smaller, so you feel very much involved in part of the action, no matter where you are.
And that's interesting that it's a little smaller because A, everything's bigger in Texas, and B, the Texas brand is so through the roof, you would probably think, if you build it, they will come. We'll just build it big, and I'm sure we'll fill it up. Especially, if you believe the current regime of athletics led by Chris Del Conte, like he did for football, bring in Sark and let's win. If you're going to do that for basketball and other events, what is your take? Why is it a little smaller?
I wanted it to be either the same or bigger, just so we could compete a little bit with the San Antonios and the Houstons and the Dallases for major acts that aren't involved just with ACL or South by. But I do understand it in that we also have the new Q2 stadium, which of course is home to the Austin FC.
Woo!
In very central Austin, great location. It is outdoors, so it's limited and by way of that and as well to their season. But that has the ability to hold quite a lot of people. And then there's also the Cedar Park Center. So there's still plenty of space for people to come through if they so choose to. But I think the atmosphere it's going to create, Matthew McConaughey is very much all about creating atmosphere. And that's their main goal with this new stadium.
Very cool. And I love outdoor venues. for a concert. I mean, is the Bee Caves venue still? Many years ago, like 15 or
Talking about
20.
Nutty Brown?
Say again?
Nutty Brown?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, no.
There,
I don't know what BK's venue is.
Bee Caves was an outdoor venue at Bee Caves in Austin where I saw Dan Fogelberg, a guy whose name you had never heard of, a couple of weeks ago, and some other people like 15 or 20 years ago. Dave Ayler, you ever heard of Bee Caves? The outdoor concert venue? Wow, maybe I dreamt it. Maybe I was on a weird acid trip and
Bee Caves is a really long road, but I've never heard of a
I know somebody's listening right now that
specifically
went to a Dan Fogelberg concert in 1995 at Bee Caves. It was cool.
Austinite.
I feel like a bad San Antonian who has a memory of an outdoor concert at Bee Caves. And
because Nutty Brown is a huge outdoor space, but it is going away.
Okay, maybe that was it, and I don't know. But and then there was what was it? Something Meadows. It was south of Austin, South Park Meadows. That's not there anymore, is it? I saw Sting at South Park Meadows once.
South Park Meadows is like a whole area now.
But it's not a music concert venue like it used to be, correct?
I don't think so.
And then San Antonio had, and Dave, you may remember this, the Verizon Wireless Amphitheater, which it was cool. It was indoor. It was outdoor, but there was an indoor section close to the stage that had a roof in case it was ever raining. But it had this hill behind it where you could get a blanket and you could like sit out on the hill. You could get a blanket, order wine, chill, stretch out, and that went under. It lost money. I mean, I saw Annie Lennox there. I saw Sting there also. I saw Earth, Wind, and Fire in Chicago there. It went under, and it was purchased by a mega church. So now a mega church holds its services there.
They pay taxes too.
Oh, exactly.
Well,
not.
In point, the Moody Center, with the help of McConaughey, is meant to be the ultimate arena for both athletics and performances.
Sweet.
So he's working on that for us.
So my bottom line is I want and need and prefer, and I think many people do, outdoor concert venues in Central Texas and South Texas, where generally the weather's good for that. You know, even in the summer, at least if it's a nighttime concert, even if it's a hot day in the summer, you know, nighttime concerts are cool. All right, quick timeout here. We do this at 6:20, and we do it 5 other times throughout the day, both on AM 1300 The Zone and on Ticket 760. It is and I got to quit whining that I don't have my stimulus check. Every time I do this contest, where's my damn check? It is the Double Your Stimulus contest, a chance to win $1,400 right now, and it goes a little something like this.
Right now, text the nationwide keyword money to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's money to 200-200.
Good luck. I'm looking on Facebook Live. Tracy Bogart says I might be referring to the backyard. Might have been called the backyard. God, it was so long ago. Did I not introduce Dave Ayler, our soundscape stylist? I am so rude. If I were like a host of a party, I would just suck as a party host.
You should always have name tags.
I know.
That way when you forget.
People need to introduce people.
And I'm starting to get used to it because this isn't the first time that's happened.
I know.
It won't be the last time.
I know.
I'm not holding my breath.
So, Dave, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Now, we had
I missed you guys because I've been working at the other end of the building for a couple of days because Charlie Parker had the squirts.
Is that what it was? Is that what Charlie had?
Yeah.
621.
Yeah. From what I hear, it was pretty bad.
Oh, God. Well, Charlie is back in the building.
You need to go grab him from the bus you just threw him under.
I'm sure he's already talking about it on the air, too. So more graphic content than I just did.
Yeah, Charlie does not hold back.
No, he does not.
Coffee.
Charlie will tell you what's happening in his life and what's happening in your life. So it's a beautiful thing. Well, it's good to have you back. Now, I think we're something like 7 days away from I think the Major League Baseball season officially gets underway April 1st, April Fool's Day. And I know you're a St. Louis Cardinals guy. You're a St. Louis guy. Are you geeked up for baseball? Or like me, in a 162 game schedule, does it take a while to kind of get you going?
I kind of get into it at the beginning of the season, then it kind of wavers off. And then maybe after the All-Star break, I'll kind of start paying attention again, because the 162 games is way too many.
Yeah.
Even for, I don't know any baseball fans that say, oh, yeah, that's about right. No, it's too many.
And I wonder in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, because over time, I think, 20, 30, 50 years ago, baseball was and is still called by some the national pastime. And it was before we had 57,000 television stations and the internet and entertainment on our smartphone and TikTok. I mean, hanging out at a ballpark in the summer with your grandfather scoring the game was nice. But I just wonder, our attention spans are shortening and shortening and shortening. Shannon, do you think baseball can sustain? And I guess you have to make money if you're these venues. But will it always be a 162 game schedule when there's not a COVID year like last year?
Yeah. I mean, thinking about how baseball is run and the kind of mess that entire organization is, they'll fight for it to stay and drag it out. I mean, they may chop 10 games here or there, but I don't think we'll see a drastic change anytime soon. As far as the number of games in a season. I agree. It's the attention spans of everyone. It's too short.
It's crazy.
And when you are paying attention, that 1 second you do look at your phone.
Yes.
Something happens, and you're like, God, now how much longer am I gonna have to wait for that to happen?
Well, yeah, they jam pack 4 minutes of action into 2 hours and 50 minutes.
It's a great pastime on my television because I get a lot of work done.
You can multitask
when I have that on the background.
Yeah, and if you miss something on our TVs now, you just rewind. Rewind that DVR.
Replay.
Well, and the worst part is if your favorite team sucks in a 162 game season. If it's June and your team is 17 games out of playoff contention,
still time to come back.
True. I should just go with it and get with the program. Speaking of program, yesterday, Shannon, you told us it was the first day of spring practice for Sark and the Texas Longhorns. Any word out of how things went yesterday?
Yeah, we heard from Sark yesterday after practice. They had an early morning. They ran for about 2 minutes. He actually calls this kind of a new form of practice because they're doing everything really quickly. There's multiple drills going on at once. There's very little downtime, and everyone's getting a lot of reps. Speaking of reps, Hudson Carr and Casey Thompson were both taking reps with the one. He expects that to continue throughout the rest of spring practice, and a notable jersey swap. Casey Thompson now wearing number 11. Of course, Sam Ehlinger donned number 11 during his time at Texas. So he has now taken on that jersey. Kind of a big hit to the team. Wide receiver Jake Smith, who has had injury trouble in the past, apparently suffered what they think is a broken foot yesterday in practice. So I'm not sure what the recovery time is on that. I'm sure they're going to get some scans just to see and confirm that it is in fact broken. But not great news overall, though. He did say it was a pretty solid first practice. Wants to see guys finish stronger at the end, but knows that that'll come with conditioning as they kick it into gear. So first day of practice, all done for the Horns as they move on. Again, that spring game, April 24th, orange and white. I won't get to be there. I'm really mad about it.
Why won't you be there? What could be more important in your life?
Someone to get married in spring.
Damn it. Yeah. All right.
It's like one of those I have to go to.
So who's getting married? Who is this person?
A friend I've known since like before birth. Like her mom's her BFFs.
So it is a she.
I'm very excited for her. I went to her bridal shower a couple weekends ago. I'm just not thrilled about the date that her soon-to-be husband went to Texas. I thought he would have put his foot down.
Exactly.
We have all these other days in spring. Pick one of those.
You got to look at the calendar. You got to see what else.
I'm just disappointed.
And especially if you live in Austin. I mean, if you're a Longhorn alum or fan and you live in Uvalde, okay, maybe you're not locked in on the schedule for the spring game, but all right.
It is going to be on TV, which means my phone may or may not be out during the ceremony.
Exactly. Yes. And you'll have to step out now and then. And thank God you can DVR it. All right. Quick break. I am working on a poll question that will be up and run. Has to do with the Dallas Cowboys. It will be up at Ticket 760 and at AM 1300 The Zone on Twitter. By the time we get back, I'm moving slowly this morning. The caffeine kicking in slowly. It's midweek. Come on. You can't expect me to be like, Monday ready. It's Wednesday. Thursday's almost here. It's almost time to start slacking off and getting into weekend mode.
That's true.
And getting into Sweet 16 mode. I got to look this up, and we'll look it up. Apparently, Russell Wilson's sister is one of the players in the women's tournament, and she is in the Sweet 16. We'll learn more about her coming up and more. And I'm sure by 7 o'clock, 3 more women will accuse Deshaun Watson of improprieties. We'll get into that story as well. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. A little bit later, the Salty Shakedown. Oh, not only was I late in introducing Dave Ayler, the great Bill Schoening, the radio voice of the San Antonio Spurs. Bill Schoening will join us just after 8 o'clock. Lots going on between now and 9 o'clock. Thanks for hanging out with us. It's the Chris Duel Show. All right. Yeah, I think it was the backyard. Thank you, Tracy. I'm pretty sure it was the backyard. And it was like, 1997. And it was out. It was a great venue. It was outdoors. It was Dan Fogelberg. My wife and I love Dan Fogelberg. I've seen Fogelberg, man. I've seen him in Denver. I've seen him in Los Angeles. I've seen him in San Antonio.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's on Bee Cave Parkway.
Is it still there? The backyard? It was cool.
It says opened in 93. It doesn't show that it's closed. It's right. I guess it's reopening in 2024.
All right.
I go on their website and it says opening 2024. So
in 2024, if it's like it was in 97, it was a great place to see a concert. All right.
I think it's going to be a more of a restaurant and reflecting space. It does say there's going to be a venue though. Looks really cool from the renderings.
Okay, so all right, poll question coming. Alex Smith, Gail Gilbert. I don't even know how to spell Danucci. Dinucci. Yep, that's it.
Garrett Gilbert. I think you keep saying is his dad Gail?
Oh yeah. That shows you how old I am. Gail. I think Gail is his dad, who was also a quarterback. Garrett Gilbert. In fact, Ben Danucci. Wonder if I can fit both names on there. Let's find out. Did it. Exactly 25 characters to put Cooper Rush, Ben Danucci. Alex Smith, Garrett Gilbert, thank you. Cooper Rush, Ben Danucci, other, you tell us. Yeah, Cooper Rush and Ben Danucci, one choice, interchangeable as mediocre and bad. Tracy Bogert says, my favorite outdoor venue, Sunken Gardens. My favorite indoor joints, Aztec Theater, Sam's Burger Joint. Yeah, I also, though, Tracy, man, the Majestic Theater, that architecture inside, and you look up at the ceiling, it's cool. I like the Majestic. In your opinion, which is the best football player in the world? Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Neymar? A couple of these I don't even know. Shows you how hip to international soccer I am. I lean Messi based on my limited knowledge. Hector Gomez, good morning.
Zlatan is the dude that was in LA for a hot minute and has been bashing LeBron James for being vocal about issues.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
I'm pretty sure Messi currently has more awards and best player of the years than Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah. Ernest Fernandez, do I think the Spurs are going to move LA before the deadline? I think one way or another, Ernest, I've been saying all along, I don't think they're going to get anything for LaMarcus Aldridge because I think other teams know the Spurs will buy him out. I think the Spurs want to do right by LaMarcus and give him the opportunity to sign with another team. So I think either way they would make either if they can get something for him, and I don't think that's going to happen. But again, whenever I say that or anyone else says something like that, whenever we think we know what the Spurs are going to do, we don't really know. They're like the CIA. But my feeling is they're not going to get anything for him because other NBA teams know that the Spurs kind of telegraphed, if not said, they're going to buy him out. So why trade assets for him when you would have a shot at signing him as a free agent and not giving up anything for him? Chris Duel show along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Lots of Spurs talk and speculation on Facebook Live. If you're new to the show, we stream live video in a number of locations on AM 1300 The Zone's Facebook page, on Ticket 760's Facebook page. Do you hear my voice just crack there? It just cracked. When I was like 14 and I was in high school and my voice would crack, they go, "Oh, don't worry about that. That'll go away." By the time you're like 16, 17, your voice won't crack. I'm a middle-aged man now and my voice still cracks. It still cracks. That you lied to me, people.
Part of your charm.
I'm just saying. What your voice cracked? Are you emotional about the live video? I am a little emotional. It's very moving. So we stream live video on AM 1300 The Zone and Ticket 760's Facebook page, and you can access it via YouTube. And we put links out to all that stuff on Twitter, Ticket 760 and AM 1300 The Zone. And one of the cool things about the live feed is you're not only interacting live and in real time with Shannon, with Dave Ayler, with me, but there's a lot of other side discussions going on there. So we'll get into some of those in a moment. I do want to say hello to JJ on Twitter. During the break there, I noticed that JJ said he was listening to the show this morning, blasting it at his hotel, in his hotel room, and drinking coffee, which begged the question for me, JJ, where are you listening to the show? So I said, what hotel, where are you? JJ is at the Homewood Suites in Harlingen, Texas. He's there all week. He'll be back in San Antonio on Friday. So, Shannon, sometimes we're listened to in Tokyo, in Singapore, in Australia. And this morning we are listened to at the Homewood Suites in Harlingen, Texas.
Well, we appreciate you listening and playing it on blast.
Yeah, blast it. Make your next door neighbors at the hotel bang on your wall.
Yeah, be that guy.
It's 6:41 in the morning, damn it. Stop it. Okay. So we do have a poll question.
Yes, we do.
We're late, but we got it. Okay.
We got it.
What do we got?
We're asking, who would you like to see as the backup QB for the Dallas Cowboys? Alex Smith currently leading the way with 50%. Garrett Gilbert falls behind 35% and tied at 7% apiece. Cooper Rush and or Ben DiNucci or other. If you go ahead and click other, go ahead and tell us who you think should be the guy. Because as we know, yesterday, the Eagles signed veteran QB Joe Flacco to their roster. So a lot of people now bringing Alex Smith back up into the discussion to bring him to the Cowboys, because he would be not only a veteran guy for Dak to lean on and to have assistance from, but he himself obviously coming back from a huge injury.
Yeah.
And just a guy that Dak, as he comes back from his injury, can look to for inspiration.
And I guess, Shannon, I lean Alex Smith. You just look at if you can put in, should we put Alex Smith's devastating, life-threatening injury aside that he has come back from, putting that aside, he's obviously better than Garrett Gilbert, Cooper Rush, or Ben DiNucci. But what the Eagles just did, and I know Flacco gets a lot of flack, and he should. He won a Super Bowl, got a mega contract, and never did anything else really in the National Football League. But he is a veteran who took a team to the promised land once upon a time. I'd rather have one of those dudes as my backup than Garrett Gilbert, Cooper Rush, or Ben DiNucci.
When Flacco right now also receives a ton of flack because when he was with the Broncos, he has a quote where he says, I'm not here to be a mentor. I'm not here to, coach a kid up. And that's essentially what he was just signed to the Eagles to do. So we'll see if maybe he has a change of an attitude as he realizes that he's on the back end of his career. But I don't know, maybe they're going to have quarterback competition. And I don't know, maybe Flacco gets a couple starts. Someone in here on our feed says Colin Kaepernick for the Cowboys. I like Cat, but he's been out of it so long, it would make me nervous that should something happen to Dak and he would have to go in, I don't know how game ready he would be.
And again, though, and that's a whole big discussion in and of itself. I would like to see.
I don't think Jerry would go for it.
No, not Jerry. But I wish someone would sign him. I know he had that what was it, a year ago? Or I think 2 years ago, he had that workout for all teams that there was some argument over, who would oversee it and how it would be videotaped. And so that's just and it's just so weird though, now in retrospect, when Colin Kaepernick was doing those silent protests and there was such outrage, and yet now it is so commonplace for all athletes across the board to, in one way or another, protest, and yet Kaepernick's out of the league.
Yeah, you're almost called out now if you don't choose a side.
Yeah.
Or
Weird.
Or just go with whatever your teammates are doing. So yeah, I'd love to see him back in a uniform. I just don't know that Jerry would make it be a Cowboys uniform.
And and people forget that he took that 49er team to the Super Bowl against the Baltimore Ravens, and they were quite competitive and could have won that day. But yeah.
When the lights went out, it changed everything.
Yeah, you're right.
Also, Beyonce performed then, and that in itself is pretty life-changing.
Exactly.
I would imagine. Haven't had the privilege.
True.
One day.
Mm-hmm.
When concerts are a thing.
Someday concerts are going to come back. And so, good news. We talk about COVID a lot. I did hear a couple of days ago, the infection rate in San Antonio is down to like 2.3%, which is, it hasn't been that low since kind of March of a year ago. So it's while, and I took my mother yesterday, she's 97, took her down to the Alamo Dome to get her second shot. I don't have one yet because every time I try to call in, we're sorry, there's no vaccine. Call back again sometime. Good luck, sucker. So I don't have one yet, but at least my 97-year-old mother now has 2 vaccines. But it's not with all the bad news about this virus, and for so long, all we wanted to do was get out of 2020 and into 2021. And once we got into 2021, there were still a lot of issues. It is nice to see, and I want to report it whenever I hear it, some good news on the coronavirus front. So that's pretty good news for a major Texas city.
Right. And starting next Monday, I believe, all adults in Texas will be eligible to get that vaccine.
Woo!
But like you said, the key is getting
Yeah.
an appointment, because I don't know if they're opening it up because they have more to give, or how that's gonna work. My dad sent me links last night for all the different ways to sign up for all the different ones, just to see if I could snag one.
Yeah, I ran into somebody yesterday who is driving from San Antonio to Carrizo Springs, which is way south Texas. Hours and hours and hours
Crazy
to drive to get the vaccine. I think today, I talked to this person yesterday. So it's like, yeah, I'm going tonight. I'm going to get a hotel in Carrizo Springs so I can get my vaccine tomorrow.
It's like buying tickets to a sporting event. You're waiting for that 10 a.m. tickets to go on sale, and you click in and you put them in your cart, and you get all the way to the checkout, and then they say, oh, just kidding.
Yeah, you're right. Yes.
Oh, sorry. And you've been amped the whole time. You're like, this is my time. I'm going to get this. Today's the day. And then they're all gone.
Now, I think you and I talked about this off the air yesterday, Shannon. And of course, if you're on the live video, you're in on this conversation on the live video feed. But Krispy Kreme, I think, is absolutely brilliant, the thing that they are doing with regard to getting the vaccine.
Yeah, through 2021, you bring in your vaccination record, and they'll give you a donut. I think you get a donut no matter what when you walk into Krispy Kreme. Like, I think that's just their thing. And I was reading over the rules because I am a rule follower.
Yes.
And nowhere on there does it say you can't make a return visit.
Ooh.
Now, whether or not you're going to have to hop around to different Krispy Kremes, I don't know. And then you had the great point of no one's going to go in there and just get a free donut and then walk out.
Yeah.
You're going to walk out with at least a 6-pack.
It is.
If not a 12-pack.
Yeah.
I'll probably have the 6-pack down by the time I get home.
But I just think first of all, from a publicity perspective, I've heard it reported on every major news outlet that Krispy Kreme is doing this. So they're getting a ton of run and pub just for doing it. And secondly, it's just because, as you just mentioned, if somebody comes in for one free donut And apparently you can do this every day in 2021. Bring in your little COVID card showing you got vaccinated. You're going to buy more. So
Which is
you're getting
unfair to
people into
like me who haven't been eligible, and then
exactly
gonna probably have to wait even longer to get one, because I do love a donut. They have a Krispy Kreme stand in DKR.
Ooh.
And it is not close to my seats, but very a handful of times I have made the trek during halftime to get me some donuts.
How long are those lines at halftime?
I'm all the way back. I usually time it out pretty well, so they're not too bad. You know, I kind of get there right before everyone else does. You know, I can see the way the game is going, if they're gonna run out the clock or what have you. If I realize there's not gonna be anything big I'm gonna miss, I'll duck out a couple minutes early.
There you go.
All for the donuts.
You gotta plan ahead. Absolutely. People jumping in. Don Holding has joining, and has used to be called has. He's the guy. And Don, we want to get you on the show. He's 59 years old, I do believe. He has been working out, and he used to be a wrestling promoter, and he used to own a wrestling company, and he would put on wrestling matches across South and Central Texas. So he's been working out like hardcore in gyms and with trainers, and he is going to make his debut, I think in April, as a professional wrestler, which I think is cool. Anybody who does anything that they really want to do and they really have a passion for, I love it and do it, and we will celebrate it. But to, at the age of 59, for the first time ever, as a wrestler, get into the ring and be a professional, I just think that's cool.
That is really cool.
So.
And I think you mentioned him working out. I think he's making fun of me by asking, how does Krispy Kreme and a six-pack be mentioned in the same sentence? You've never gone to Krispy Kreme and just gotten a six-pack? You don't have to get a dozen. You can get a box of 6. But they sell them at DKR, by the way.
But who does that, though? Do you do that? You say, no. I shun the dozen. I'll just take 6.
I live alone, and I live pretty close to Krispy Kreme, so they'll always sell you more. That's what my mom always says when we're at a restaurant, and I'm like, we didn't get enough. They're like, they'll let you order more if you want more.
So
I always end up getting enough. I never have to order more.
There you go. You got to have your philosophy and your system in place. Don Holding saying April 30th is his professional wrestling debut. Don, come on the show. We'll talk about it. It'll be fun to talk. And Don's a great guy and a great character. In fact, I married Don. Shannon.
I'm sorry?
I married Don, the wrestler. I didn't actually.
Oh, you married?
Yeah.
Like ordained.
I performed the ceremony. Okay. Yeah. I'm ordained on the internet. It's like, I think it's called the Universal Life Church. But the impressive part of it is I'm 8-0. That is great. The divorce rate in America is, I think, 51%. The divorce rate when Chris Duel performs your ceremony is 0%. Mainly because I threaten the couples that I marry, and I say, "Come on, I got a perfect record. Do not. I'm the Tom Brady of officiating marriages. I'm the GOAT."
And you make them sign a contract.
Yes.
And that says they owe you $100,000 if they do get divorced.
Oh, there is that. Yeah, they're not that, but there's a non-disclosure that they're not supposed to reveal that.
Right.
And I will stalk them and mock them on the internet. So, all right, there is that. So, all right, Texas. Oh. I didn't. You brought up Casey Thompson, quarterback, Texas Longhorns, going to wear number 11 now. Sam Ellinger's number for the last 4 years. I kind of like it because he's saying, "Hey, I want that number. Give me that number." Whereas,
the number.
No, exactly. It's like if you were a wimp, it's like, dude, how are you going to follow Sam Ellinger? You're going to be your own man. Wear 11. You don't want to invite comparisons to Sam Ellinger. And he's saying, "Yeah, it's me. I'm worthy." Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I thought it was great when Sam wore it, and I'm happy that I guess Casey Thompson's been wanting to get into that uniform, and he took the chance when he got it.
This could be the beginning of a tradition. It's like, and when Casey Thompson's done, he has a great career. The next one will wear 11. It could be the new thing.
Retired.
Woo!
Might happen one day.
I like it. All right, coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, the Salty Shakedown. sports history, sports birthdays. We'll talk NCAA tournaments, men and women, because we like it that way. Quick break. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. I'm Chris. With you till 9. It's the Chris Duel Show. Barney Segura, good morning. Jason Paniagua. Jason Garcia. Yeah, I've met Brandon Oliver as well. In fact, I've had Brandon Oliver in studio with some of his wrestlers before from River City Wrestling. All right, I'm getting coffee before I forget. Mark Cantu, good morning. Laura Burris. Tracy Bogert. Ernest Fernandez. Hector Gomez. Luisa Alanis. David Valles. Foam Foot 420. I'll be right back. My huge strato tanker of coffee.
Barney, I've never been to Round Rock Donuts, but I've had them before, and they are, in fact, one of a kind. I've always wanted to see if I could handle the oversized chocolate ice donut. But I live so close to Krispy Kreme and Dunkin', obviously, that I don't tend to make the trek out to Round Rock for donuts. Anthony's still a week left in March.
Anthony Del Toro, good morning. That's true. I remember when we got to March 1st, Anthony and Don. It's like, wow, we've already banged out 2 months in 2021. And here we are, the 24th. In a week, we'll be out of March. I just thank God this winter ended. I hate cold weather, as punctuated by that winter storm, which was god awful. All right. Where are. Got to look for a couple of things here. Steve Duraco and Beth Settle back to back jumping in here. Good morning, Beth. Good morning, Rocket Man. Wow, Anthony, we don't have a prize for best bracket yet. We'll have to talk about that. Hey, Wes, I just saw the message you sent me about vaccine options. Thank you for that. I appreciate hearing that. Sadly, the time you're quoting me, because of this show, I tend to try to be winding it down by that time. But desperate times may call for desperate measures. But I appreciate the information. All right, we are getting close. In fact, the end of that music means we're going to start this 7 o'clock hour.
This is the Chris Duel Show. Now, Chris Duel.
Midweek, Wednesday, March 24th. Lots going on in the world of sports. It is the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney and the man it took me 27 minutes to introduce to you, soundscape stylist Dave Ayler. 1 hour from now, we love him. You should love him. We can't get enough of him. The voice of the San Antonio Spurs for the last 20 years, Bill Schoening, Austin Dude Bill Schoening, formerly voice of the Texas Longhorns. And I think right when he was making the transition from being the voice of the Longhorns, and he used to work with Craig Way in the broadcast booth for the Longhorns. I think that first year with the Spurs, he was kind of still doing both. I'll have to ask him about it. I think I remember that when he was early on with the Spurs, he would still do some Longhorn games. Anyway, we love having him. We will talk Spurs. We will talk NCAA tournament. When it's Bill Schoening, it could turn into music. He's a singer-songwriter, so that's a cool thing. I did mention, and I looked it up, Shannon, in the women's tournament, and oh, by the way, we'll talk about it, the Longhorns versus UCLA tonight. I believe, is that in the Alamo Dome or is that in the Frank Irwin Center tonight? That is, it's in the Alamo Dome. That would have been cool if it was in the Frank Irwin Center.
Yeah.
Would have been a little bit of a home court advantage. That's 8 o'clock tonight. It's the last game on the women's schedule tonight in the second round. Texas, the 6th seed, versus UCLA, the 3 seed. I find that ironic, Shannon, because if the men's Longhorns basketball team would have done what they were supposed to do and beat Abilene Christian, their second round opponent would have also been UCLA.
Yes.
It would have been very symmetrical.
To go on to the Sweet 16. Instead, the Texas men's basketball program is losing players because yesterday Royce Ham Jr. announced he is going to transfer. He's in the transfer portal. He is going to be a grad transfer somewhere else next season. And then sophomore Donovan Williams also hit the transfer portal. Both guys got minutes. They did see the court and they did contribute a ton of minutes compared to obviously the starters and the next couple men off the bench. But already some effects of the crazy end of the season. Still no word yet on Shaka Smart, no official word, but all signs still trending towards him not being here next season.
Yeah, all of you who had Tuesday on your Shaka Smart firing bingo card, you lose. So the Wednesday people are up on their Shaka Smart firing baseball. You know, we were talking to Benny Bash out of Colorado Springs. Benny Bash, radio guy, handicapper, very, very knowledgeable, especially when it comes to college basketball. You talk about these two Longhorns, Shannon, getting into the transfer portal. You know, Benny contends, and I think he's right, the transfer portal is really kind of revolutionizing college basketball in that more players are choosing that option, and certain coaches who want to build their team right now. I don't want to, go get freshmen and kind of wait and coach them up. Let me get players who have experience on the court in college basketball. It is one way to build a winner quickly if you're good at it. So going to be interesting to see how that continues to, he equated it to, the advent of the 3-point shot and the advent of the shot clock and different innovations that happened along the, in the one and dones, different things that happened along the way that changed college basketball as we know it. And he says that's the next big thing.
Well, and the Royce Ham one doesn't surprise me as much because he is going to be a grad student, and we see more grad transfers. I think just because it is going to be their last season, and maybe he wants to go somewhere where he can get more playing time because it's probably going to be his last year playing. Maybe he's looking to actually just join a contender, whether he has to ride the pine or not. But Texas clearly not at contender status yet, or and maybe he wants to go somewhere for a grad program that Texas just either doesn't offer, or he'd rather just go somewhere else. It's more concerning to me when younger guys start leaving the program. They're no longer buying in. And it's just not a great look. It's not a great look for recruiting new guys in either.
I must ask you, you said Texas not at contender status. They're ranked in the top 5 throughout much of the regular season. They win the Big 12 tournament.
I've said it all season. They're not legit.
But no, you said it. And you, kudos to you. You were proven correct in that first round, god awful, maybe one of the worst tournament losses in Texas Longhorn history to Abilene Christian. But I mean, they're a contender. I believe they're a contender. I mean, they have fallen woefully short when in money games when it counted, but they're in contention to
imagine where they would have been this season if Kansas, Duke, and Kentucky were at their what is considered normal for them.
Yeah.
They were all below that normal, and even their normal is below normal for them is almost average for some. So
yeah, it got Kansas a 3 seed.
Still, I mean, they still want, if you're one and done in the tournament, that's not a contender status for me.
Well,
a lot of schools, there's 64 teams in that tournament. That's a lot of schools.
We will disagree on that one, but I get your point. I imagine a lot of people agree with you on that point. I did mention Russell Wilson's younger sister. Her name is Anna Wilson. She plays for Stanford. In fact, she was named the co-defensive player of the year at Stanford, which is a little weird because you think Russell Wilson, you think offense, but it's a completely different game.
He plays both sides of the ball.
Woo! Yeah. So Stanford did win last night. They're a 1 seed. They could win the whole darn thing. Stanford beat the 1 seed, beat the 8 seed Oklahoma State last night, 73-62. So Anna Wilson, sister of quarterback Russell Wilson, and the Stanford Cardinal advance in the women's tournament. So that's, and again, we talked about this yesterday, Shannon. The reasons we love the men's tournament, the upsets, the anything's possible, the buzzer beaters, the storylines, all of that exists in the women's tournament, and therefore the women's tournament should get more run and publicity and celebration than I believe it currently does. There was another story last night. Talk about storylines. Let me pull up the Iowa game. Iowa has a freshman named Caitlin Clark. So Iowa, a 5 seed, they beat the 4 seed Kentucky last night by a score of 86-72. Caitlin Clark, a freshman guard, 35 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists. But here's what I think is cool. At halftime, Caitlin Clark had 24 points at halftime. And at halftime, Kentucky had 22 points. At halftime, Caitlin outscored Kentucky. Caitlin 24, Kentucky 22 at the half. So could we
say she's dominant?
I think you could. And as a freshman, she's somebody to keep an eye on. So Caitlin Clark.
The women's tournament, and I believe Oregon plays tonight as well. They, of course, are not only a big name school in women's basketball, but Sedona I believe Price or Prince, her last name, is the one that's kind of been leading the charge with her little TikTok videos that have gone viral on all social platforms, kind of displaying what's going on the woman's side. She's pretty funny. She takes you through every single meal they get.
Yeah.
But I think she's 6'7", so she has to eat a lot for all the work that she puts in. That is a tall human being.
Now, was she one of the ones, because you had sent me some original TikToks when the story broke about the god-awful weight room with the 6 dumbbells. Was she
She's the
heavy into that?
original. I think I sent you a different player's
Okay.
version, but yeah, she was on GMA earlier in the week. She's a big part of that Oregon program. It's not like she's, someone who's just there and has time to make all these TikToks, because she's not a role player on that team. She's a big part of why that team is so great. They actually took a boat tour down the Riverwalk yesterday.
Woo!
Team. And in her video, there's all those bridges on the Riverwalk, and as a 6'7" person, she was having to duck every.
Oh,
I mean, could you
no.
imagine the headline?
Yeah.
Star Oregon player's head bashes into Riverwalk Bridge.
Head injury.
Yeah.
Yeah, Oregon, a 6 seed, 2:00 this afternoon, in fact, and it's on TV. It's on ESPN2. Oregon, the 6 seed, taking on Georgia, the 3 seed in the Alamo region. Of course, all of the regions named after something San Antonio. There's an Alamo region, there's a Mercado region, and there's one that I'm getting to, which is the Hemisphere region, which I am happy there's a Hemisphere region, Shannon, because it's named after Hemisphere 68. And there used to be, as you know, we've talked about it, the Spurs originally played in a building called the Hemisphere Arena. It is Hemisphere because it was a World's Fair. People who know nothing about it or were not around back then call it the Hemisphere, like the northern No, it's not. It's not Hemisphere. It wasn't the Hemisphere Arena. It was the Hemisphere Arena. One of my pet peeves, Shannon. I'm just saying, get off my lawn. I was there watching George Gervin. There is no hemisphere in Hemisphere.
So think corn dogs.
Think corn
That
dogs.
it's fair.
Woo! Yeah, a state fair. Think corn dogs.
And again, you mentioned Texas playing tonight, UCLA at 8:00. Why does Texas always get the late games?
Maybe because that's prime time
for me.
Well, for you,
8:00.
Sort of. Isn't a prime time by definition like 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. in the Central Time Zone? I think
that Texas game was an 8:50 original start, and then it got pushed to 9:13. That game ended after 11:00.
Yeah.
And I know it's Saturday, but come on, that's like Pac-12 after dark hours.
Well, and USC, their game against Kansas was an 8:40 start the very next night, and it didn't get going until after 9:00. So it was the same, very similar.
So this 8:00 start, I'd probably 8:15, if we're being honest.
So now you, Shannon Salty Sweeney, hardcore Texas Longhorn partisan, tonight, are you staying up for the whole game?
I will do my best. I will watch it in bed, and we'll see how far along I can make it before eyes are closed. Because I got a big day tomorrow. I'm heading out to the match play.
That's right.
I think it starts today.
Woo!
I'm just planning on going Thursday, Friday, hoping the weather is kind.
Now, I had this conversation with you and Tanner Carlson, your favorite golfer. I mean, everybody who's anybody other than Tiger Woods, and we know God love him, and I hope he recovers. Tiger recovering from his car crash injuries now at home. But some of the greatest golfers on the face of this earth coming to Austin for match play. Who is the one golfer, if you had to pick one, that you're looking forward to seeing with your own eyes?
I've seen Jordan Spieth play there, so I wouldn't mind seeing him again. I've seen Rory play there. I didn't see Dustin Johnson before. I wouldn't mind just watching him tee the ball off. And as much as I hate to say it, Bryson DeChambeau.
Woo! But why do you hate to say it? Why do you hate to say Bryson DeChambeau?
I don't care for him.
He speaks highly of you, though.
The antics and I don't want to see him and then also see him call over the refs to make a judgment call. But also my dark horse, who's kind of been my dark horse for the last year, Matthew Wolff out of Oklahoma State. He's going to be like the next gosh, I always forget his name, but he's incredible. He's moved up in the rankings a lot this year. He's made a lot of top 10 finishes. He's kind of a dark horse, young guy. So I wouldn't mind seeing him perform well in this tournament. Especially, I mean, we're 2 weeks away from the Masters, which
Woo.
is so hard to believe. I remember watching the Kansas Chiefs Browns playoff game, and they're advertising for the Masters coming in April, and I'm like, we just had them.
Yeah.
What do you mean? And I forgot. We had to move it. I almost feel bad for Dustin Johnson because he didn't, you get the green jacket when you win. You get it for a year, but then after that year, it goes into the Augusta whatever, and that's where it stays, and then you only wear it during the dinner and the award ceremony. He didn't get his year to ride that around to all the award shows that would have him and for him to gloat.
Would do guys for the year? Do they wear that green jacket around town? I mean, is it a thing?
Spieth, I don't know. They probably had to make him a new one. I mean, he was immediately on a flight to New York. He was on all those award shows. He did a couple of events in Texas. He was here at DKR for a game. I mean, I don't know if he ever took the thing off other than to change the shirt he had on underneath. Which I'm fine, do it. Why not? It's one of the few trophies you can wear. And everyone knows what it means. No one's like, what is that?
Yeah.
You know what this is.
Yeah. I'm a call for I earned the damn green jacket.
I'll tell you what it is, but I won the Masters.
Very nice.
You'd think if you're a guy like Tiger Woods and you have so many that they'd just let him have one of his many just around.
But if you're Tiger Woods, you don't wear it. It's like, I'm Tiger. I got a bunch of these. It's like, I'm Tiger.
He probably has a whole closet in Augusta for his jackets.
So some other sports news, flipping to football, the general manager of the Washington football team says that the name Washington football team is starting to resonate with its fan base. And the team has declared that it will absolutely come up with a permanent team name by the 2022 season. So even if the team changes its name, it will still be the Washington football team this coming 2021 season. However, and we have heard this before, it was a possibility, but it looks like it is a growing possibility. The Washington football team might just say, you know what? We're good. We kind of like Washington football team. Shannon, how do you feel? Should Washington just stick with football team, as weird as it continues to sound to me?
It is weird, and it sucks as a Cowboys fan to lose to a team known as football team. As a Cowboys fan, I don't necessarily care what their name is, though. The hard thing for me is, we're obviously very active on social media and reading headlines and this and that and the other, and their acronym is WFT.
Yeah.
And I never read it that way. I read it as the other.
Exactly.
And so that's hard for me to overcome at this point. So I would like them to change it for that reason. And they're all about marketing and branding. You've already got all these people who bought all the Washington football team gear. They're just gonna buy whatever you change the team name, logo, whatever to. Why not?
True. Yeah. I said this before they changed the name. I said this 3-4 years ago. I said this on AM 1300 The Zone with Craig Way and Rod Babers a number of years ago. The easy fix to me always was name the team the Washington Americans. Keep the Native American on the helmet, honor Native Americans, and you've got double meaning because it's the nation's capital. It's Washington, D.C. There used to be a team in the World Football League called the Birmingham Americans. Okay, nice, whatever. On the logo of the Birmingham Americans football helmet, it had an A, red, white, and blue with a little star in the middle of the A. Okay, fine, Birmingham. There is no city in America more appropriate to be called the Americans, in my opinion, than Washington, D.C. And I think you right an old wrong and you go out of your way to honor Native Americans as the first Americans. So you honor modern day Americans and you pay homage to Native Americans. I think it's a win-win, and I think you could still keep the same helmet You could still, I believe, have a Native American on the helmet and just honor them instead of using the name that a lot of people found offensive.
I feel like I'm late to the party, but I'm just now realizing Cowboys and Indians.
Yeah, that was
I
that
like
was a
that
thing.
idea of calling them American, especially with where they're located. I'm sure there's a lot of Cowboys fans who would be against it just because they are quote unquote America's team.
And there's that. You kind of subtly stick it to the Cowboys. And I'm a Cowboy fan. I don't like that. Right. But if you're a Washington fan, it's like, hey, we're sticking it to the Cowboys. We're the Americans.
Are there names that are like in contention for if they do decide to name it?
I have heard some. That's a good. During the break, I might Google that. So that's a good. What are the leaders in the clubhouse at this point? That's a good question. But I've not heard anybody else though. I heard a few names bandied about during the season last year. Mm-hmm. I didn't hear anybody say Americans. To me, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's like it's
right.
I don't know.
Very football.
Yeah. It's football. All right, coming up, Shannon's salty shakedown. It is coming up in the next segment. We'll give you this day in sports history, sports birthdays. Don't forget, top of the hour, the great Bill Schoening, who's going to do a lot of play-by-play in the next 2 nights, because the LA Clippers are in San Antonio to take on the Spurs on consecutive nights. Tonight, Clippers, Spurs, AT&T Center. Tomorrow night, Clippers, Spurs, AT&T Center. That means perhaps walking around the streets of San Antonio, Kawhi Leonard. I'm just saying. Say hi to him, Spurs fans, if you see him. Tell him I said hi. I'm a big fan. Exactly. Here, Kawhi. Yeah, don't waste your taco eat the taco. Throw something else at Kawhi. I'm just saying. And I'm not calling for anybody to throw things at Kawhi.
Yeah, don't say.
Yeah.
Told me to.
Somebody's going to tweet like some Steve Kerr reporter. Chris Duel calls for throwing things at. No, I don't.
Suggestion.
You could throw some heckles at him. I might be okay with that. There you go. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler, your soundscape stylist, making the show go. I'm Chris. Bill Schoening at 8. We're with you till 9. Salty Shakedown coming right up on the Chris Duel Show. Tom Petty.
Sorry, I thought I had my mic off when I was typing. I've got connectivity issues over here.
John Nieto, you are correct. The Hemisphere Arena was called the loudest arena. Can you hear me? Yep. Okay. She's talking to Dave. Pat Tallman
message on the private
was
chat.
the PA guy.
Song request for this segment, and then I also yesterday it started happening where Chris gets really choppy and then he kind of drops out for a second or two. I tried the disconnect thing and reconnect on my end yesterday. It didn't seem to work because it seems to be getting worse today. I don't know what your engineering background is, if any, but if you have any ideas or if you want to try disconnecting from me. Okay. Is there an engineer there? Oh, of course. I will. I just wanted to see if we could get it through first, but I'll send one in. Right, but it's not super consistent, but like when it happens, it's always while Chris is talking, and then he'll kick to me, and I'm kind of like, what was the kick? What was the actual question? No, and this was happening yesterday, and it's only like once or twice a segment. It's not super consistent.
John Arne Paulson, welcome from Norway, brother. I saw you earlier. I meant to call you out on the show. We love it when you join us. No significant trade rumors right now that I'm aware of. Somebody in here might have some.
So I'll put in a ticket though.
I think I'm going to get more coffee.
Okay.
Because I got a ton of it.
All right.
in here. Anything else I need to cross check? I don't think so. Okay.
Chris, are you losing me at all in your ears?
Thank you, Dave. I am not. You
Okay.
sound fine to me on my end. I heard you talking to Dave about my dropping out on your end. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, a little choppy at times. I'll put in a ticket.
Okay. All right. I got to heat my coffee. I'll be right back. Let's see. Where's my mask?
Yes, sir. Not today. I can go do that now. You want me to? Yeah, I can get there. All right, we'll see if that does it here. Yeah, I just don't know what our options are as far as what's open on the reg. No, I'd have to look it up. Yeah.
All right. Make sure I have this right. Woo! Hold your pants down. Did I hear that correctly? Was that a misheard lyric?
Mask.
Say what?
I think he said mask.
Oh, mask. Okay. Maybe my mind is in the gutter. Hold your mask down. Come on. Hold your mask down. What are you? Governor, you the governor of Texas? Greg Abbott, put your mask up. I'm just saying. All right, Shannon, you were trying to hippen me up. Who are we listening to?
Migos.
Migos, everybody.
Or as athletic director Chris Del Conte likes to refer to them as migas.
Migas.
He likes the migas tacos.
Very nice. Have you? Are you a big Migos fan? Is Stir Fry your favorite Migos tune?
It's the only one I know because there's stir fry dance. Whipping it up in the stir fry. I'm sure you're familiar with their. I believe it was last year during the Super Bowl. They had either a Mountain Dew or Dorito commercial where they were riding around on like teeny tiny kids' bikes.
Yeah.
In the giant ballroom.
Very nice.
I know you look like you love this song.
I do like it.
Again, artistry.
I like it.
Lyricism.
I like it.
They're most known for their added value of the whoop and all the things you get behind the lyrics. Whip it.
Big old booty onion that makes you want to cry.
Lyrics.
I know.
Could use those in some sympathy cards. Send that to those who are hurting.
That's what sympathy. We need to reimagine sympathy cards. They're all, I'm sorry for your loss. Which is sincere. I get it, and you should express that. But maybe if you talk about booties and onions, and it could be you could elevate someone a little bit. I don't know.
Yes.
I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. But I won't be wrong about this day in sports history. All right. On this day in 1962, the 24th NCAA Men's Basketball Championship, the Cincinnati Bearcats beat Ohio State 71-59. Bearcats won back-to-back national titles. I think Oscar Robertson played for Cincinnati at the time. Cincinnati was a force back in the day. On this day in 1988, quarterback Dan Fouts retires from the National Football League. And to this day, his nephew, Jeremy, is one of our soundscape stylists on this show. At least I believe there's a connection DNA-wise between Jeremy Fouts and Dan Fouts. Speaking of retirements, on this day in 2019, New England Patriots Rob Gronkowski announces his retirement. He retired as a 3-time Super Bowl champion, or did he? Liar! On this day in 2020, 1 year ago, Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe announced the postponement of the 2020 Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic Games until the summer of 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And Shannon and Dave, here's what I believe is the marquee event on this day in sports history. On this night, March 24th, 1975, Muhammad Ali fought a boxer named Chuck Wepner. Chuck Wepner was like this big, flabby white guy who had no business being in the ring with Muhammad Ali. Wepner went the distance with Ali, 15 rounds Ali won by decision in the 15th round. Now, here's part 2 to that story. 1975, on this night, a struggling actor and screenwriter watched the Ali Wepner fight and got an idea. He went home for the next 3 days. He stayed up 20 hours straight to write a screenplay. That screenplay would become the movie Rocky, about a boxer who gets a shot at the title with Apollo Creed. Dude's name was Sylvester Stallone. The rest was history. If Chuck Wepner doesn't go 15 rounds with Muhammad Ali on this night in 1975, there may be no Rocky, and Sylvester Stallone may not have become a thing. I'm just saying. There it is. This day in sports history. Time for sports birthdays. Born on this day in 1938, Larry Wilson. You'll like this, Dave, being a Cardinal guy. You remember Larry Wilson? Pro Football Hall of Famer, 8-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah, vaguely.
6-time All-Pro First Team, NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 1966. He passed away last year, Larry Wilson, born in Rigby, Idaho. Born on this day in 1944, Denny McLain, Major League pitcher, Cy Young Award winner in 68 and 69. He was born in Markham, Illinois. Born on this day in 1984, basketball player Chris Bosh, part of that LeBron, Dwayne, Bosh trio in Miami. But your marquee birthday of the day in sports, born on this day in 1976, NFL quarterback, Super Bowl champion, NFL MVP 5 times, 14 Pro Bowls, born in New Orleans, Louisiana, to Archie Manning and his wife, I don't know what her name is, Peyton Manning. Happy birthday, Peyton Manning. Born on this day in 1976. Thems be your sports birthdays and sports history. And now, the moment you've waited all morning for. It is time for the Salty Shakedown.
All right, folks, we did talk some NCAA March Madness, including the women's tournament. But now I want to talk about Nell Fortner, who is the head coach for the Georgia Tech women's team. They are headed to the Sweet 16 as the number 5 seed to take on number 1 seed South Carolina. She took to Twitter yesterday to say thank you to the NCAA. So I'd like to read you her thank you letter, if you will. Dear NCAA, thank you for using the 3 biggest weeks of your organization's year to expose exactly how you feel about women's basketball. An afterthought. Thank you for showing off the disparities between the men's and women's tournament that are on full display in San Antonio. From COVID testing to lack of weight training facilities to game floors that hardly tell anyone that it's the NCAA tournament and many more. But these disparities are just a snapshot of larger, more pervasive issues when it comes to women's sports, and the NCAA shipping in a few racks of weights after the fact is not an answer. It's a Band-Aid on an afterthought. Isn't the NCAA a nonprofit devoted to running championship with student athletes that must be academically eligible to compete in those championships? In what other nonprofit educational endeavor is it acceptable to treat young women as a less valuable financial commodity? At what individual university would it be acceptable to give women inferior textbooks and cheaper cafeteria food of their perceived cash value? And then she goes on to talk about how she understands women don't bring in a ton of cash, but they are still part of the billion-dollar contracts for the tournaments as a total, along with TVs. And she notes Sedona, who has now millions and millions of views and hundreds of thousands of followers just because of what has been going on, and that she has her single-handedly brought on a ton of awareness, more awareness than some of the men who are unhappy with their situations in the bubble have brought on for themselves. So, Chris, I love it. I also love that she's still in the tournament and she's calling out the NCAA. When I first saw this, I was like, oh, she probably coaches a team that got knocked out. And there she's is her parting gift, her farewell. So thank you so much, but not really. She's still in the tournament. She made this incredible statement. You can read it all on her Twitter. This is Nellie Fortner, the head coach for women's basketball at Georgia Tech. Chris, your thoughts on her thank you letter?
I love it. She nailed it. I love it. I do what irks me as a San Antonian, and we have had great Final Fours for men and women in San Antonio at the Alamo Dome. There's an organization here called San Antonio Sports, which does a magnificent job. By all accounts, the issue, and she cites San Antonio. By all accounts, the issue, and you know this, Shannon, is the NCAA not sending the resources to San Antonio. It's not the local organizing people in San Antonio, in Austin, in San Marcos, and at all of these venues. So that kind of bugs me that people across the country, if they don't do their homework and understand this story, might feel that somehow we dropped the ball here in South and Central Texas when we did not. But back to your question, amen, Nell Fortner. I hope it'd be kind of fun if she won the whole thing, but whoever wins it, when they are interviewed, the coach, the players, hopefully they will echo the same sentiments. And, it's unconscionable for the NCAA to have treated these ladies, these athletes, these student athletes, as poorly as they have, as far as, you talked about swag bags. We've talked about the weight room. We've talked about the food. It's just wrong. And hopefully, once you shine a light on the problem, you can fix the problem. Going to be very, very interesting to see the accommodations the women have 1 year from now. I have a feeling the NCAA is going to wake up, if for no other reason than they are being outed by people like Nell Fortner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the NCAA has admitted that these are their issues and not those of San Antonio. So I agree. There are going to be, unfortunately, some people who see San Antonio as the problem, but they're merely the vehicle that is being used as the display for the disparities between men's and women's basketball. And now you have me thinking of I can't picture what the NCAA trophy looks like the men's versus the women's, or if
it's a good question.
Because I know for the World Cup, men's and women's, the men's World Cup is giant, and then the women's is this little tiny, almost statue. That are we not playing for the same thing here? Why is the trophy different? But we will certainly keep an eye on that and on her as her thank you letter blows up. Moving on to the NBA. The Heat, one of the first organizations to let fans back into the stands earlier this year, and they did so with K9 units who were there to help smell out COVID as part of the testing process for getting into the venue. They're now saying beginning April 1st, they will have 2 sections for those who are completely vaccinated and have been so for at least 14 days. In those sections, you will still be required to wear a mask, but your group of your family members, your friends, whoever you're going with, aren't going to be necessarily as socially distanced. There'll still be 1 seat in between your party and the next party, but they aren't required to be socially distanced. They will also have their own entrance. And the NBA is also encouraging that if you are going to separate them like that, you should also provide them with their own concession stands and their own restrooms so they don't commingle with people who have not been vaccinated or completely vaccinated. It kind of sounds weird, but at the same time, we know vaccines are continually being dished out and more are coming. So more and more people should be getting vaccinated. So hopefully they'll be able to start expanding those sections to where then it's just everybody has the vaccine and we can go back to whatever the new normal is going to be. But for now, they are going to be separated. I'm curious to know if tickets are now going to cost more. And for these, I guess, safer areas of the arena. And there's still the issue of vaccine is currently, you have to be an adult to get it. So if you want to bring your kid, you can't sit in that section. You have to sit in the other areas of the arena. Of course, they will still be socially distanced, but I guess you do have that much more risk in being in the non-vaccinated section. Chris, your thoughts? There are apparently some other teams that are considering going this route as they open the arenas up to more and more fans.
I like it. I think people who get vaccinated are more responsible citizens, even though I'm trying to get one and can't get one yet. So no, I think it rewards those who have been vaccinated. So I like it. And then you said something at the very end there. Kids won't be able to be in these sections. To me, that's a selling point. I don't have kids, and God love you if you have kids. Enjoy them. Some people are born to be parents. I was not.
Right. You're telling me this is the part of the airplane where I don't get my back of the seat kicked in?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
a premium for that.
When my wife and I, there's a resort, and we'll never go back because Ted Cruz has destroyed Cancun. But when we used to go to Cancun, she found this place. It's like a resort, and a lot of people bring their kids, but there's a section of it that are called like adult villas that for adults only. And it's like, we'll pay extra if we can have a place where we don't have kids in the pool with us. Or so, yeah, I'm a big, and again, not to disparage kids, or if you have kids, I love you, and we don't exist without procreating and having kids, but I kind of like sections without kids. I'm just saying.
I wish they had that in restaurants more often.
Woo.
I was seated at dinner on Friday, and there was a family with probably more. There were more kids there than they had seats at the table. I don't know how they got seated there, but they were done with their meal, but they were hanging around, and their kids were very much ready to leave, and so they were running around.
Oh,
Me and my dad were like, I'm ready for them to go.
Control your
Go ahead
kids
and
in a
go. We
restaurant.
have time limits on these tables here during COVID.
Yes.
I'm sure they've maxed out at this point. Let's go ahead and move on. All right, finally, speaking of food, Chris, I will be shocked if you haven't at least heard of this situation with Cinnamon Toast Crunch and Shrimp Gate 2021. Have you?
I went to tmz.com this morning, and I learned of it just this morning.
In the world is she going to talk about shrimp?
Yep.
Okay, so this gentleman named Jensen Karps, who happens to be married to any Boy Meets World fans, Topanga, aka Daniel Fisher. That's not really the point. He got 2 boxes of the jumbo pack, because that's the only way you can get it from Costco, of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. He opened it to enjoy him some Cinnamon Toast Crunch. He poured it out, and he saw black specks baked into the cinnamon toasties, as well as 2 shrimp tails that came out of the box as well. He took a picture, he posted it online, and Cinnamon Toast Crunch, social media, whatever, responded with, "Those aren't shrimp tails. That's just sugar clustered together and then baked." And so they've just you clearly look at this. Those are shrimp tails.
Yes.
So because of their lackluster response and not willing to take ownership of, you messed up here. We don't know how, but you messed up. A lab has now gotten involved. They've taken it in for testing so they can verify that those are shrimp tails. They're also going to verify what the black stuff is. The guy has alluded to the fact that they may be droppings of some sort, but because he actually ate some of this cereal before realizing this, he's choosing to wait until the lab results to really accept that he may have put that in his body. This whole thing has blown up in the last 24 hours. He has been tweeting about all of the ongoings. General Mills has then reached out to him via email, and they basically said, you're not cooperating with us. And he's like, y'all, I reached out to you.
Yeah.
You guys are the ones that are sending these responses. And he had a great point, I think, where he said, you're making your social media people be the face of this and be responsible for this, when it's the higher ups that now need to be involved and handle. Y'all have an HR department. Help have them help me, not you, because you're now under fire for these responses that are now public on Twitter. So interesting. I can't wait for the official lab results to be like, yes, they look like like shrimp tails. They are shrimp tails. Now, Chris, now that you have some information, I'm sure you've seen the picture at this point, the original photo.
Yes.
What do you see?
Those are shrimp tails without question, right? I mean, I see shrimp tails.
And so that's just sugar baked together.
Oh my God.
Absolute nonsense. Sugar in that shape, and clearly, like, you can see when you zoom in the clearness of the end of the shrimp tail where it's pulled from the meat.
Yeah.
How does that happen? And then they did say that they did go to open the second box from Costco that they got, and it looked like it had been taped together.
Ooh.
Yet somehow, but the bag inside, so the actual box didn't display any damage prior to. So there's something quite fishy going on here with Cinnamon Toast Crunch and General Mills. I have never had the misfortune of opening such a thing and such grossness happening, but this is something else. And I just love the fact that we throw Topanga in there, because now she's trending, and you're like, why? Oh,
funny.
He's the shrimp guy. And I love he's having fun with it too, as making a bad situation. He's like, oh, I'm Gorilla Glue Girl now. Like, I'm currently the next Gorilla Glue Girl sensation that everyone is like waiting for the end of this story. So we'll see how it ends. I'm sure it ends with a positive DNA test for shrimp.
Well, I would say that's one cereal I will never eat again, but I've never eaten
I
it.
didn't
So
know they still made it.
I will say that's
Be
one
honest.
cereal I will never eat. And
I
I
don't eat
may,
cereal, so I'm out of this race.
yeah, and I may have to like ban anything from General Mills.
See, that's the other thing too. It's now not just Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It's General Mills suffering here.
Ugly story. Well done. An outstanding salty shakedown for the morning. Coming up, sports update, sports packages, and the great Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, joins us in just a few moments. Thanks for hanging out. We're with you till 9. It's the Chris Duel Show. That was very good. One hour left. Sam Tobias says the trophies for men's and women's NCAA tournaments are eerily similar to one another. Well, that's a good thing.
That's good. And that's what I kind of imagined. I just could not recall. But there are other sports where the trophies are just so insanely different.
Yeah. NCAA tournaments are. Oh. All right, one more coffee hit. Emptying out my coffee tumbler.
Out of the Pac-12, their appearance in the stands. That's brother Russell Wilson. That's right. Out of the Pac-12, their appearance in the stands. That's right. Out of the Pac-12.
And Tobias says that
Is that really true, Anthony? Like I said, I don't eat cereal, so mostly just because I don't drink plain milk. So I just don't eat cereal. That's gross. Rat poison. Maybe they're rat droppings then.
Anthony Del Toro, one of the ingredients in General Mills cereal is rat poison. Google it. Ugh. We don't like that. Wow, how cool. I just got a tweet from the Chuck Vans show that Russell Wilson was in attendance at UTSA. Is that UTSA? Yeah, UTSA's venue to watch his sister play for Stanford last night. Russell Wilson in town. That's tremendous. All right. Let's see what else is going on here. Cool. Thank you, man. Here we come.
This is the Chris Duel Show. Now, Chris Duel.
8 o'clock hour as we talk about everything in the world of sports. It's the Chris Duel Show along with Shannon Salty Sweeney, your soundscape stylist, Dave Ayler. As tonight, the San Antonio Spurs begin a 2-night home back-to-back against the Los Angeles Clippers. Going to be a heck of a test for the San Antonio Spurs in the AT&T Center, and the man who will have the call originating from Spurs Radio 1200 WOAI in San Antonio and across the Spurs Radio Network, the one and only Bill Schoening. Bill, thanks for joining us on a game day.
Very good to be with you, Chris, and Salty.
And Bill, I was talking about you on the show earlier this morning, and I talking about how this is your 20th season as the radio voice of the San Antonio Spurs. And I seem to recall, previous to this, you were voice of the Texas Longhorns, and Craig Way worked with you, and ultimately when you left, inherited that job. But you were, at the very beginning of your Spurs play-by-play work, you were also overlapping and still doing some Longhorn play-by-play. Do I remember that correctly?
Yes, the first year with the Spurs, I got hired. In fact, it was the day after 9/11 was when I signed my contract with the Spurs on 9/12/01.
Man.
Close to the football season. Well, football was already underway with UT. So DeLoss Dodds was the athletic director at the University of Texas at the time, and we agreed that I would finish the football season. So therefore, I had to miss a couple of Spurs games that first year. So those are the only Spurs games I've ever missed because I had conflicts. And unlike Craig Way, I can't be in two places. So therefore, I did miss a couple of those games that first year. So, but I haven't missed one since. I did a Holiday Bowl in San Diego in late December of 2001. And that was the last time that I was not on hand for a Spurs game. So I don't know what the streak is right now. I think it's over 2,000, something like that.
Wow.
Very lucky to be healthy during all this time. There was probably a game or two, Chris, that you might recall where my voice was really shot. I remember one night in Salt Lake City a couple of years ago. I probably shouldn't have done the game, to be honest about it, but I somehow soldiered through. But it was really a raspy voice that was coming over the airways describing that game. But other than that, I think we've been okay. But I was kidding with you last night. We were talking about this streak thing. Chick Hearn, the legendary voice of the LA Lakers, who did radio and TV, didn't miss a game from 1965 to 2001.
Wow.
Streak, Chris, is 3,388 games. So just for fun, I put pencil to paper one time and figured out when I would be able to surpass Chick Hearn's incredible. Sometime during the 2037-2038 campaign, I'll be able to pass Chick Hearn. I don't think I'm going to last that long, to be honest with you, but it's always a good goal in mind. There are several announcers in the NBA who have longer streaks than me, including Ted Davis with the Milwaukee Bucks, who's been there forever.
Wow.
So Steve Holman, who's the longtime radio voice of the Atlanta Hawks. But I always kid both those guys that I have a better winning percentage.
Oh, there you go. There's the dagger. Well, Bill, while we're talking a little bit of Texas, let's go ahead and get it out of the way. Texas' untimely exit from the round of 64 in the NCAA tournament. Your thoughts on Shaka and the team that's already seen 2 players enter the transfer portal since they've been back in town?
Yeah, I listened to that game after our game on Saturday night. I was able to listen to Westwood One coming back, and it was a shocker to me. I had a hard time believing that Abilene Christian could beat the Longhorns. But in that game, of course, I think they forced 23 turnovers, and that is exactly what Abilene Christian wanted to do. That is their strength, is defense and forcing turnovers. And I think they made the mistake of playing at Abilene Christian's pace, and Abilene Christian clearly dictated the pace and the tempo of that game. So, yeah, very disappointing, especially after they won the Big 12 Conference Championship in the tournament. I'm sure there are a lot of Longhorn fans that are still upset. I live up here in the Austin area, so I hear a lot of it. But it's a shame because they seem to be making a lot of progress. They've got some good talent. He's recruited very well. But you are judged, especially in this market, on how you do in the NCAAs.
Well, and great talent that did come out of Texas, Jarrett Allen, who of course went to the Nets. Then he was part of that trade that sent him to the Cavaliers after the Nets acquired Harden. He's been in the conversation to maybe land with the Spurs. What are your thoughts on that, and how likely is it that they could bring him home? I mean, he'd be like the ultimate replacement for LaMarcus Aldridge, just bringing another Longhorn.
He not only is a former Longhorn, he is from Austin. He went to St. Stephen's Episcopal Academy in Austin. There are a lot of teams around the league that would like to have Jarrett Allen, because if you can get a chance to get a young big like that that's got talent, there are a lot of teams who would be vying for him, and the Spurs would be just one of many teams that would be interested in him. So there are a lot of different things that have to happen. We've talked about this before with trades. Of course, the trade deadline is tomorrow, but a lot of different things have to fall in place for a trade of that ilk to happen at this point in time. So, we'll just have to wait and see. But, Jarrett Allen, you look at other big guys around the league, young bigs that have potential, and, teams value those type players.
He is the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening, with us. And Bill, you mentioned the trade deadline is tomorrow, and I spend a lot of time on social media and on Twitter, and this time of year it always happens. There's all these speculations about trades that the Spurs might make, and I've found over the years, those who think they know what the Spurs are going to do never know what the Spurs are going to do. I mean, the Spurs, it's and maybe it's Pop's military background. It's kind of run like a military operation, and we know that in the military, loose lips sink ships, and the Spurs do not telegraph what they're going to do. So if you think you know what they're going to do, you almost certainly don't know what they're going to do. So it's and quite often there's not a move made by the Spurs. And as I look at this team, Bill, I like what the Spurs have. I mean, this youth movement really seems like it's coming to fruition these days.
Yeah, they keep everything close to the chest, which is a really good idea in the NBA, because as you know, things kind of get out sometimes. But the Spurs are known to keep things, close to the back, not close to the chest. I guess both.
Right.
But they are very good at trying to figure out exactly, what the future plans are. It's just not a move. If they're going to make a move, it's not just for, the next couple of months. It would be something that they would look at down the line, especially now with all the young talent that you mentioned. The Spurs are clearly building for the future when these young guys can mature. Don't get me wrong. They want to make the playoffs this year and make a move and make some progress now. But, clearly this is a team that is being built for a nice run later in terms of, these guys maturing and coming together. And really like this young group. I agree with you, Chris.
And Bill, a big homestand for the Spurs, a 9-game homestand. Of course, they lost a couple of nights ago to Charlotte. It was down to the wire. Patty Mills had a shot at a 3-point shot late that would have tied it. Spurs lose by 3. And now tonight and tomorrow night, a big test, back-to-back games against the LA Clippers. For a number of years, the Clippers have been one of the best teams in the Western Conference. How do you think the Spurs approach? I mean, it's almost like, and it's one of the features of this COVID schedule that was developed this way. When you have back-to-backs against the same team a few times, and you kind of get to know that team, it's almost like a playoff situation in that certainly on the second night, every team has a better idea of what the other team's going to do.
To a baseball series, isn't it? Now usually in baseball you have a 3 or 4 game series, not just 2 games. But at the same time, I can see where they're saving money here, because a team like the Clippers, instead of coming back to San Antonio later, they're just going to take care of matters right now and play 2 in a row. I kind of like it, to be honest with you. It's a little different. I don't know if I want it all the time, but I think it's kind of cool to have a team in for a couple of days. I'm not sure if coaches are crazy about it or players are, but it makes it easier to prepare for the next opponent from the night before. But this is a true test. This is a good Clipper team. Obviously, they're 12 games over 500, And they're the best three-point shooting team in the NBA, over 41%, I think, last time I checked. So, which was this morning, because I've already been doing game prep work for tonight's ball game. But yeah, perimeter defense will be important. Rebounding is always important for the Spurs because they want to make sure they don't give up a lot of second chance points. Pop's adage is do not, you got to come up with a stop. But to get the stop, you got to get the defensive board, because if you allow a lot of offensive rebounds and second chance points, there's no stop. So that'll be an important factor tonight. Obviously, defense on Kawhi Leonard, who's still averaging well over 20 points a game, 26 points per game for Kawhi, and he's shooting 51% from the floor. So he's still very much an effective player, obviously, in Paul George. So there are a lot of different factors involved in trying to slow down the LA Clippers, and they're a tough team. So, being physical tonight, all of those factors. I think, the Spurs got kind of caught up in the get-back game the other night, not to make excuses for them. We've talked about this even in the pregame the other night, Chris, where the first game back from a long road trip sometimes is a tough game because that fatigue from the road trip, and this was a 5-game trip over 7 nights for the Spurs, kind of catches up to you early. You don't have your legs quite back yet. They played much better in the second half, especially defensively. But in the first half, they were slow out of the gate, and that really kind of came back to haunt them, there in that game against Charlotte. So hopefully they'll have their legs back tonight and they'll play better, throughout the course of the game this evening.
Yeah, that Charlotte game was interesting, right? Because LaMelo is currently out. He just had surgery on, I guess, what is a broken wrist. But do you have any personal feelings about Kawhi coming back into the building and coming back for back-to-back games in San Antonio?
Kind of old news now, Salty. He's been gone for a couple of years. So, obviously it was a difficult pill to swallow for the Spurs because this is a young guy who was entering the prime of his career. But they did the best they could. They got DeMar DeRozan, Jakob Poeltl, and Keldon Johnson on that deal because people forget that Keldon Johnson was the 29th pick in the draft, and that was the draft pick that was given up in that draft, in that trade by the Toronto Raptors. So there are some good things that came out of the trade. But right now, I think Pop even mentioned it last year or the year before. Hey, look, let's turn the page and move on. He's not real crazy about the fans booing Kawhi. Decisions were made, and sometimes just got to turn the page and move on. That's what I've done. That's what just from a broadcaster's perspective or from a media perspective. It's just you deal with it. And obviously, the Spurs have some very, very good things out of this deal. And I'm enjoying watching Keldon Johnson play, I'll say that. And Keldon will probably be matched up some tonight with Kawhi, so that'll be a good challenge for the young guy.
Yeah, you talk about Keldon Johnson, and Bill, you make a huge point, and I think most Spurs fans do not connect those dots that you just connected, that in that trade, we did get DeMar DeRozan, Jakob Poeltl, and Keldon Johnson via that draft pick. But, I mean, you look at the last, 2 years in particular for the Spurs drafting, Keldon Johnson looking so good so early in his career. Luka Šamanić looks like he has a big upside. They got him last year even ahead with their draft pick a year ago. And now Devin Vassell looks spectacular. Just the last 2 drafts alone to add those 3 players to your organization. I mean, the future, I got to believe, looks very, very bright just from that standpoint.
Remember, these guys are still very, very young, 21, 20 years old. Devin Vassell is only 20. So, he would be, I guess, a junior at Florida State right now. He was young going into college. So, these guys have a bright future, and we just talked about the fact that the Spurs are building for the future. So I'm very optimistic about the future of these players and the way they play together. They seem like they have a really good attitude. Chris, you and I talked about this the other day. In fact, I interviewed Becky Hammond after the game. I thought it was a really cool touch where a lot of the Spurs players, I think 4 or 5 of them, came into the building the other night wearing jerseys of NCAA women players from years past, including Patty Mills wearing Alyssa's jersey. His wife Alyssa played at St. Mary's when Patty was there. And the real touch was DeJounte Murray wearing the Colorado State number 25 jersey, which was worn by Becky.
Yeah.
College days at Colorado State. I think DeMar wore a Cheryl Miller jersey from USC, which I'm sure.
Woo! Yes. Well, and Bill and Becky told you this during that interview, and it was a great interview because Becky, even with you, started talking about some of the disparities between men and women in these current NCAA tournaments. But as Becky told you in that interview, what I love about what the Spurs did, Bill, wearing those jerseys, honoring those women basketball players, they did it on their own. It wasn't like this came down from the NBA or this came down from a PR person. You know, these Spurs players chose that on their own, which I think makes the act all the more meaningful.
And Becky really appreciated it, not just because DJ wore the Becky Hammond jersey, just the fact they recognized the fact that women are in town playing this tournament. And of course, we've all seen the reports about the very, very sorry excuse for a weight room. When they first put it out, there would have been 6 dumbbell.
Yep.
Wasn't very much, but the NCAA recognized their mistake and tried to correct it. Becky thinks they need to take more steps, and I agree with her. But at the same time, the NCAA women's tournament's going on in San Antonio. In fact, I had a good friend of mine, Ed Svita, who's Jim Nance's personal stat guy. He's a Philly guy. He texted me last night asking me for restaurant recommendations. So a lot of people in town. Things are loosening up a little bit, which is good. But there are a lot of people in San Antonio for the NCAA women's tournament, which is great.
Now, Bill, Texas teams that NCAA rivalry, everyone loves it. I think the Spurs and the Rockets, particularly the fans, love to go back and forth with each other. The Rockets finally in their 20-game losing streak, but that all started when the Spurs beat them. Spurs fans taking any credit for that awful run by Stephen Silas and the Rockets organization?
No, I don't think so. It's tough. It's not like I pulled for the Rockets otherwise, but I was happy to see them get off the schneid there and get that win because I feel bad for Stephen Silas. I really do, because he didn't sign up for this. It's a real tough situation for a young coach in his first head coaching job to inherit all the different things that he inherited, and none of it was his doing. So, of course, we'll always pull for the Spurs to beat the Rockets when they play and have a better position in the playoffs and whatnot. But I felt bad for the guy because it's a tough situation for a young coach like that to be thrown into with all the different changing parts and things he had nothing to do with when he inherited that situation.
Yeah, huge point. A lot of people forget already, and it wasn't that long ago when Stephen Silas took that position with the Rockets. Russell Westbrook and James Harden were on the roster, and as you said, he didn't sign up for what it turned into. Talking with Bill Schoening. Bill, you said earlier that it's 8:23 in the morning. You've been up. You've already been, you're preparing this morning for your call of the Spurs game against the Clippers. I just wonder, and I think probably our listeners, to pull back the curtain a little bit, wondering a little bit about what goes into your game prep. And I also wonder, now in the era of YouTube, where you can pull up any player, any game, there's so much you can look at. Video-wise, I wonder how much of your prep is just actual looking at numbers and looking at how players are performing on paper versus how much do you actually look at? I mean, you spend so much of your time covering and calling Spurs games. There's not a lot of downtime to have the NBA channel and watch these other games. But what is your game prep like? Walk us through a little bit of how you prep for a game.
Obviously, when you have NBA TV or the NBA app, I can watch highlights from previous games. So I try to watch the highlights of just about every game, especially with an upcoming opponent, just to see who's playing well, who's hurt, who's trending up, and all that sort of thing. So I can watch the highlights from recent Clippers games, and I can also look at all the stats. In fact, we get a lot of help from the media relations departments of each team, the Spurs and the Clippers. So I can look at their updated stats and see, who's been playing well and all that sort of thing. And then I also try to make sure that I communicate. Now, it's a lot easier to do prior to this season with the broadcasters from the other team and talk to them about, who's playing well and all those sorts of things. So you go in with, the knowledge of these guys, but also having an idea of what's trending at that particular time and how their lineups are working, what particular groups are playing well together, and how they're playing at that particular time. Like for instance, the Clippers are 5-5 over the last 10 games. So and so are the Spurs. So neither team is like red hot going in, but the Clippers are in the third place in the Western Conference, and obviously they're a team that has some quite a bit of talent But they're without Patrick Beverly tonight, their pesky point guard, who he's one of those guys. I think that if he's on another team, you don't like him very much.
Yeah.
Played for you, you'd like him, because
Uh-huh.
he's pesky and he gets his nose dirty and he gets in there and he's real fiery. And I've had people tell me that about Manu Ginobili, that when they were broadcasting games for teams going against Manu Ginobili, they couldn't stand the guy. But in the same breath, they'd say, "But man, I wish we had him on our team." And that type of player. Not that Patrick Beverly's Manu Ginobili. I'm not putting him up on that pedestal just yet.
Absolutely. Well, you do such a seamless job, and you bring so many insights into the broadcast, and you tell us things that we either didn't know or didn't think about, and it's just always such a great listen. Bill Schoening will have the call tonight and tomorrow night, back-to-back at home for the Spurs against the Clippers. Tip-off just after 7:30. That means Spurs Radio Game Night, the pregame show with Bill, at the top of the hour will be 7 o'clock tonight and tomorrow night on 1200 WOAI radio and across the Spurs Radio Network. Bill Schoening, as always, and especially on a game day when you're prepping for the game, we appreciate your taking the time this morning, and we'll see you on the radio tonight.
Thank you, Chris and Shannon. Good to be with you guys.
Thank you, sir. The great Bill Schoening. My goodness. I almost asked him, Shannon, he said Jim Nance's stat guy asking for restaurant recommendations. Someday it'll be interesting. What restaurants does Bill Schoening? We'll have to do that for Austin and San Antonio. Bill's restaurant recommendations.
And everywhere in between, too.
Yeah, up and down I-35. Does he stop at the Buc-ee's, or does he go on the other side of 35 to the In-N-Out Burger is the big question.
Oh, is that word? I don't think I've been that way since the In-N-Out has arrived.
Yeah, you're right. They're right across from each other on I-35. I think mile marker 190 something. Okay.
Are there In-N-Outs in San Antonio?
Thank God there are. I think there's something like 4 now.
All right.
One, and you're going to have to come to our studios here on Stone Oak Parkway, Shannon. One right across the highway from this studio. You can finish your radio show. And they're not open at 9, but if you had a later in the day radio show, and you can be at an In-N-Out Burger from the studio in about, you got to cross the highway, so there's a red light, but you can be there in about 3 minutes from the studio. If there were not a red light, you could be there in like 60 seconds.
See, I know they run commercials, so why they don't have you endorsing them?
God, I am like a freak for In-N-Out.
Yeah.
It's a sacrament for me. It's a religion. Although I do admit the fries kind of suck.
They got some bomb milkshakes.
Oh, yeah. So you got to get the fries animal style, so you can throw some chili on there and throw some of the dressing, and then you got to eat them fast, which I can do. I can do that. So yeah.
I usually just go double cheeseburger.
I'm double animal style. Yes.
2 cheeseburgers, 2 regular cheeseburgers.
And sometimes I go protein style, which is the lettuce wrap instead of the bun,
Right,
because
you're healthy.
And I want to maintain this girlish figure. Bikini season's coming up, and I gotta work on the abs.
Yeah, as we talk about donuts and fast food.
Yeah, free Krispy Kremes with my COVID card.
Sugary cereal.
I don't get a 6-pack. I get a 12-pack at Krispy Kreme. So, yeah. All right. Coming up, we'll talk a little Deshaun Watson. We will scour the internets to see if there's anything in the sports world that is popping at the 8:30 hour that you need to know about. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler, your soundscape stylist, making the show go. You want to jump in with us the final half hour, you can always jump in with us, but the phone number, 800-707-9760. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show. It's pretty much, Yolanda, it's sure tastes like Thousand Island dressing to me. I mean, they may make it themselves and have a variation, but it's, what I like, the animal, it's that, and then there's a little bit of chili involved, which I think helps. See, I mean, without question, Whataburger's fries are infinitely better than In-N-Out's fries. However, and Whataburger lovers hate me for this, I think if you do a side-by-side taste test, and I love Whataburger, I got to say that from a flavor standpoint, if you have a bite of an In-N-Out burger, I believe, having eaten many burgers, I believe the In-N-Out burger is more flavorful than a Whataburger. Whataburgers are tremendous. I love them. Don't get me wrong. I'm not anti-Texan or anti-Whataburger. I just love me some In-N-Out burgers. All right. What do I need? Plug my phone in, which I haven't done lately. P. Terry's aren't bad. I like them over In-N-Out. Whataburger reigns supreme, says Jason. Now, my favorite burger, a lot of you won't have had it because you have to get it in L.A., is the original Tommy's burger. And the original, there's other Tommy's around Los Angeles, and there are fake Tommy's that are not the original. They're like some even spell Tommy's is spelled TOMMY''S. There's even some in LA that are like TOMY''. They're like knockoffs. But Tommy's is like it's a chili cheeseburger, and they get these tomatoes. They're like California, a thick slice of tomato that is just flavorful and spectacular. And their fries rock, and they do chili cheese fries with onions that are just amazing. So that is actually my favorite burger on this earth is a original Tommy's burger in Los Angeles. All right. Shannon, anything on your radar or on your mind? I thought we'd do a little update on Deshaun Watson here and react to it, but I'm open to anything.
Yeah, Deshaun that's good.
See, and what part of what I want to get into is if any of this is true, and if he can't clear his name, we touched upon this before, but I think it's a big deal. Because he's the quarterback, and that's just kind of a different position. It's kind of face of the franchise. I mean, how does anybody, I know, I know like a Greg Hardy was able to come back after his horrible thing that he did to the woman in his life. But
no one views him as a leader in the locker room.
Yeah, true.
And then, did you listen to Clay today?
Just briefly when I was in here.
Like, he said he put on his lawyer hat, and he said if he was Deshaun's lawyer, that they would just settle all this. Is settling to you not admission of guilt, just not wanting to?
It is.
Have it go be criminal.
Yeah, it is. I think his only hope, I would think, would be a mea culpa. To A, settle, and then B, just publicly make a statement like, I'm seeking counseling. I had a twisted sense of what was acceptable in these situations. I treated women badly. I'm working on it. I'm sorry. I mean, maybe that does it for him.
Well, the whole theory, like the theory some people have of like this is the Texans like trying to destroy him.
Yeah.
It's destroying you because you're now he's losing all sorts of value for other
You've
teams.
destroyed his value. I agree.
Like, they're probably like, damn, we should have let him go when he wanted to, because then it'd be somebody else's problem. I mean, their name would still be dragged in it because that's where most of these took place, but
yeah,
it gets crazier and crazier. 24 names. And one of them in LA.
You know, and my thought, if you're the lawyer fabricating this, how do you get 24 people to comply? I can't imagine it. My gut says where there's smoke, there's fire, certainly in this situation.
Jason P. Terry's is good. I don't care for their fries either. They're kind of like In-N-Outs to me, but they are some banging burgers and shakes. Mighty Fine, also tremendous. Yolanda. I just don't like, I'm like my dad, I don't like long tables where multiple parties can sit there. I want my own space.
Well, and you were talking about the kids. Nothing drives me crazier than when you go to a restaurant and there are a family that has disruptive kids who are affecting the experience of other restaurant goers who are paying money to go to that restaurant and have an experience. Maybe they're on a date. Maybe it's, a couple wanting to have a conversation. If you can't teach your kids to behave in public, then don't take them into a restaurant.
Yeah. I get like every now and then you bring a baby and there's an outburst, but the kids running around and doing whatever they want, like their parents aren't even there.
Yeah, that is crap. That is bad parenting.
I think too, like right when restaurants started to open, we went somewhere and there were some kids that were just running around the restaurant. Like, I'm at my table not wearing my mask because I'm at my table eating my food, but you are all up on me right now.
Yeah, and who's bigger carriers of
I know
viruses and bacteria than kids? Yeah, people are just so clueless.
Louisa, he did know it was going to come out. Remember, he sent out that statement the night before the first filing that said, this is something that's going to come out. I can assure you I've never disrespected any woman. I don't know if he knew it was going to be this many.
Yeah.
But he did know something was coming. I don't know if he knew as far back to demand a trade because some of these happened like in January and February.
Welcome back. It is the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney, Dave Ayler doing what he's been doing all morning, absolutely rocking the airwaves. Our thanks to Dave Ayler, thanks to Bill Schoening, who joined us just a few minutes ago, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. Shannon, this Deshaun Watson story, I mean, every day there's a new chapter, seemingly every day there are new allegations. The filings yesterday, lawsuit number 15 and 16 were filed yesterday. Yesterday, Deshaun Watson's attorney responded. His attorney is named Rusty Hardin. He said in a statement that his law firm has strong evidence that one of the lawsuits is false, and he says this calls into question the legitimacy of all the other cases as well. To me, that's a stretch. And one of the things that strikes me on this, unless Deshaun Watson can clear his name, and as the number of women willing to come forward and say, I've had a very either on the low end, a negative encounter with Deshaun where it got inappropriate to he sexually assaulted me. I know there have been players in the NFL who have come back from ugly, ugly situations. Just off the air with you, I mentioned Greg Hardy, who physically brutalized a woman who was his girlfriend at the time. There was still photos of her with horrible bruises on her face, just god-awful violence that he committed. And then later the Dallas Cowboys signed him for a while. But because the quarterback is the face of the franchise and the leader in the locker room, I had problems with signing Greg Hardy, and I have problems with any player who commits that level of violence or lawlessness coming onto a professional football team. But I'm beginning to think if Deshaun Watson does not somehow emphatically clear his name, if there is still, if A, any of these women win a civil suit, or B, criminal charges are filed, and Deshaun Watson doesn't unequivocally win this and refute these and prove that these are wrong, that first of all, most of us, and I've heard some analysts say he will never play another down in Houston, because he doesn't want to and he refuses to. But if name any team, if I'm the Seattle Seahawks, the New Orleans Saints, the New York Jets, is your fan base of season ticket holders, many of whom are women and many of whom are men who love women who may have daughters, are they going to want your quarterback to be Deshaun Watson? I don't think so. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think people are going to be buying number 4 jerseys, and I think those that have them aren't wearing them and probably intend to never wear them again the way things are right now. I just keep coming back to how strange it is that A, he would go to these masseuses, and B, the kind of, when you go get a massage, you are in a room with you and the masseuse. So there are no witnesses here. There's no cameras in those rooms. Depending on what kind of operation he went to, there may or may not be cameras in the front or even in the back hallway that shows you that he was actually there and went to the room. So aside from text messages where we've heard that he has apologized to some of these women after the fact, I don't know what physical proof we're going to get. I also think it's strange that it's only a civil suit right now. I would think they'd be coming for both because sexual crimes they are criminal, and people should be put away for them so they don't repeat and offend anybody else. And then when I hear people say, "Oh, he should just settle it," to me that's an admission of guilt, but you choosing to try and lessen the story, get it out of the way, get it over with. He'll be suspended no matter what by the NFL if their track record holds up at all. But I just don't see him playing for Houston, and I think at this point Houston is really regretting not giving him that trade when he wanted it originally before all of this came out, because he is losing value, which means they are losing value.
And again, and this is another conversation we had off the air. The people with us on Facebook Live heard you bring this up, Shannon, but just to bring it on the radio now, there are people who believe the Houston Texans are behind these allegations, that this attorney for these women has ties to Cal McNair, the owner of the Houston Texans. There's Jack Easterby, who is now apparently the puppet master running the organization in Houston. And there's a theory that when Deshaun said, "I want out, I won't play for the Texans again," the conspiracy theory is that the Texans themselves said, "All right, we'll show you, we'll smear you." But the point you have made, Shannon, for the Texans to do that, you would be hurting yourself, devaluing a commodity for which you would be able to get other assets in a trade.
Yeah, and if anything now, I guess if you're the Texans and it doesn't look like A, he's going to be able to play, or B, that all of this is true, and that maybe they could null and void the contract that he is under. So at the very least, they aren't on the hook for that as an organization. I just don't buy the theory that the Texans are behind this. I think obviously there's a lot of questions that are arising because of the relationship. It's all weird, but I mean, that's also like the NFL. Like there are connections all over the place because most of these owners just are really well-connected guys who know other rich guys. It's just the way the world works these days.
Now you said this, and I just want to go here. And there are no valid comparisons at all. But you mentioned, and there are some people saying Deshaun Watson should just settle these cases and move on. As you pointed out, Shannon, when you settle a case like that, to a lot of people, that reeks of, hey, this dude was guilty because he settled the case, but then moved on.
It gets worse.
Yeah. However, and he is beloved. And we lost him a little over a year ago. Kobe Bryant had that situation in Colorado where there was an allegation. There was a woman in that hotel and something happened and Kobe settled with her. And yet that's something that we kind of don't talk about. That's something we have forgotten about. And Kobe Bryant moved beyond that moment and that settlement to continue his career and flourish and become a beloved, not only NBA player, but a beloved American icon. So, I mean, there is at least one case we could point to and say, you know, there is a way beyond this to settle a situation. You know, obviously it wasn't 16 women.
Yeah, it was one, not 16 going on 24.
Right.
And you just have to look at the landscape of where we are in society right now, even though it doesn't seem like it was that long ago when Kobe was doing this, where he had to go from number 8 to 24. Things, even though it's still just as wrong, were looked over much more easily than they are in today's world. Because now we're finally putting a foot down saying, yeah, this is absolutely unacceptable. And those that are high profile should be leading the way in taking responsibility and acknowledging these things that are wrong. Deshaun Watson just happens to be the one that's in this situation right now. And again, with football, like you said, he is the face of a franchise. And I know that Kobe at the time was basically the face of the NBA. But I don't know, just like Kobe owned that locker room in such a different way that I think anyone has ever been able to own a locker room because of how, I mean, Black Mamba, how he was on the court. I don't know that Deshaun has that or has ever had that in his locker room, and he certainly is going to have it now.
A couple of posts on Facebook Live from John Williams, who joins us from Dallas. He wrote two things. One, he wrote, Deshaun Watson, is he the new Bill Cosby of the NFL? And then he wrote, is Deshaun Watson's NFL career over? And it's still very early. We still need to hear evidence. As you asked earlier, Shannon, why are these only civil suits and not a criminal prosecution? The attorney has said this week he's turning over all of this evidence to Houston's police department and sheriff's departments in case they choose to pursue a criminal case in this. So maybe it starts as a civil and morphs into a criminal case. But the more I try to think this through and try to think what could the resolution be here, I think a growing, maybe it's a small percentage, maybe it's 10% right now, but I think there's a growing percentage that may be, if this stuff were proven or is true, Deshaun Watson may not play football again. What do you think?
I agree. And I'm sitting here right now and I'm thinking this is a movie in the making. Right? There is someone sitting back in their tiny LA apartment screenwriting every move of this and picturing who's going to play Deshaun Watson. And God forbid they do any like reenactment scenes. I mean, this is like crime investigation stories written all over it at this point, with the storylines that just keep coming out.
And again, I keep going back to OJ. And if you're old enough to remember OJ before the murder of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, OJ was beloved. And the day we heard that he was suspected of this, we thought that was crazy.
Well, he was acquitted on the criminal charge, right? But then on the civil charge, he was found guilty, right?
Correct. Yes. So yeah, I mean,
to me.
All right. As we begin to wind down, sorry to
Just be good people.
be good. Exactly. And gosh, when you have the world at your fingertips and your God blessed you with a great talent and you are one of the best in the world at doing it. Gosh, whenever somebody squanders opportunities like perhaps Deshaun Watson is squandering,
He just opened that restaurant. I need to go look at reviews.
oh my God. Yeah. All right. Wrapping it up. We had a poll question. Shannon, do you have that handy?
Yes, sir. Asking who would you like to see as the backup QB for the Dallas Cowboys next season? Leading the way right now, Garrett Gilbert with 49% of the vote, Alex Smith 47%, and tied at 2%, Cooper Rush and/or Ben DiNucci, and followed by other. You tell us. A lot of people saying Colt McCoy, who could be in talks to join the Cowboys. He, of course, already been with the Washington football team, formerly of the Redskins, and the New York Giants most recently.
And a shout out on Twitter, the Chuck Vans show sent us some video of Russell Wilson at his sister's game. Anna Wilson plays for Stanford in the women's tournament. So Russell Wilson in San Antonio at the UTSA venue last night to watch the Stanford game. So that's pretty cool. Russell Wilson hanging out in San Antonio.
Around for that next round.
They could win it all. So yeah, you should see a lot of Russell Wilson shots on television, I would imagine. Shannon, outstanding as always. Have yourself a great Wednesday.
You as well, sir.
Dave Ayler, you rock. Great to have Dave Ayler back. Our thanks to the great Bill Schoening as well. Spurs tonight on the Spurs Radio Network. I'll be there along with Bill and others. Have yourself a great Wednesday. And as Shannon just said, be good to one another. See ya.